Okay, this is Avatar: The Last Airbender, Episode 4, The Warriors of Kyoshi, an exercise in not letting your ego go to your head. So the episode opens on one of my favorite jokes in the show, where Zuko and Iroh are trying to relax, only for Iroh to realize that they have completely lost track of the Avatar. They have no idea where he is, and on a map it turns out he's been hopping island to island, and they think it's an evasive maneuver, only to find out that Aang really has no idea where he's going. I know that's a very simple joke, but I always found it kind of funny. So, turns out that Team Avatar is trying to find a place where they have these giant, massive koi fish, like the size of whales. And Aang, being, the energetic kid that he is, he wants to ride one. He does, but he quickly gets thrown off after a massive eel known as the unagi, which is a little bit redundant since unagi means eel anyway, but, redundant, much redundant. And it turns out they've landed on the island of Kyoshi, which was named after one of the previous avatars, Avatar Kyoshi. And while the group is initially captured, believing to be outsiders, they are quickly welcomed amongst the island. And it turns out Aang is very popular. The island is kind of overjoyed to have him there and him performing his little airbending tricks. And he quickly gets the attention of a little mob of young girls, which is, honestly, it's very funny, it's very cute, but not surprisingly, this kind of starts going to his head, and even though he says he's a simple monk, turns out a little bit of attention can go to the head of even the most simplest of monks. While that's going on, Sokka is feeling embarrassed that he got captured by the Warriors of Kyoshi, which is an all-female combat group, and even though he's a bit pig-headed about it, he eventually learns to let go of his ego and, let the women train him. Meanwhile, Zuko finds out where they are, arrives at the island, and Team Avatar have to stop Zuko before he completely destroys the village. So, not a spectacular episode, but it's a good one. This is kind of where the show is now gonna really hit, not so much hit its stride, but kind of hit the fun that like a lot of people know it for, especially in the first season. The last 3 episodes were good, but they were very much trying to establish the world, so at times they could get a little clunky with some of the exposition and the establishing of things, but this one focuses a lot more on the fun, and I guess now is a good time to mention that this is one of those things some people should kind of keep in mind if they're either watching the show for the first time as an adult, or if they're rewatching it for the first time in a long time. It is a show that was meant for kids. Now, with that said, anyone who knows the show knows it does get very, very good, it gets very mature, it gets very adult, but the first bit, especially the first season, is very much focused on still kind of being a kid show, and a 2000s kid show at that. So if you're familiar with like Nickelodeon or even Cartoon Network, even though it never gets as zany as a Cartoon Network show, there is a lot of emphasis put on the humor, the animation, and just kind of fun scenarios. It's kid-centered. It's for kids, which is fine. You can have something that's for kids that adults love, but it is meant kind of for kids first. So I think a lot of people need to keep that in mind, because I was kind of waiting, like, when is this show going to click the way it did? And I realized that's not what it's meant to at first. It's meant to kind of be a fun adventure at first that slowly gets more serious. If it started off serious, the show might be liked, but I don't know if it'd be as well remembered as it is if it didn't have that good setup and contrast of fun and serious stuff later. But it's the most notable thing about this episode is it not only introduces us to the island of Kyoshi and another past avatar, but it also introduces us to the character of Suki. What's a Suki, you might ask? That's a Suki, or at the very least Funko's approximation of what the character should look like. Suki's a character I'm going to hold up for a little bit. Suki's a character who appeared in this episode, but eventually she's going to become a mainstay in the series. I showed because the Kyoshi Warriors, they all kind of dress and apply makeup like this to resemble Avatar Kyoshi, who was known for looking like this. Just a visual to kind of show you what these characters look like. Again, it's very chibi with the massive head, but, that's not a Suki. Yep, Appa's back. But it was a good episode. I will admit this show did did kind of make me realize I do want to ride animals, because the a big point of this episode is Aang is trying to ride the elephant koi and show off for his gaggle of girls. But I will admit, if I were a kid, I would totally be into that. That stuff looks like a lot of fun. The main point of the episode is basically it's a typical kind of kid show message. It's don't let your ego get to your head, which in the case of Aang, it's kind of realizing that he's not. Let me think this. It's realizing that he shouldn't be such a attention hog, which is generally an unlikable quality in a person. Sokka realizes he shouldn't let his sexism get in the way of judging people, because throughout a lot of this episode, he's constantly pointing out how girls do this and not do this, only to realize that not only can he learn a lot from a girl, but it can be very beneficial for both of them. I like too how Suki, even though she's very much wanting to bring him down from his high horse, not kind of let him just be a pig-headed idiot, but also realizes that she is in fact a girl too, and he should look at her as a person in all that encompasses, both as a warrior, as a skilled martial artist, but also the fact she's a girl. And I kind of like that. It's, oh shit. Sorry, my alarm just went off. I had to turn that off. So that's just kind of a good thing. And it's sort of starting a good overarching theme of the show, which is everything in life is about balance. And I know that's a very, in many respects, after 20 years of this show being on the air, that's kind of an obvious thing in media, but this show does it probably better than most things I've ever seen, where everything is about balance, not only in life, but also in kind of how the show presents itself. It has to balance the serious, the action, the animation, the philosophy with the comedy, the lightheartedness, and the simplicity. And this episode was kind of a good way to start showing that, even if it is very subtle. That's another thing the show is very good at. It's very good at subtlety. It's hard to demonstrate that subtlety without showing you clips, but you just have to take my word with it, or watch the show and then come back and hear me monotonely talk about it. But yeah, this was a nice, decent episode. Not the best, but it's good. A lot of these episodes are good. I'm finding more and more when I watch the episode immediately, I like it. I don't love it, but then when I think back on it, I really start enjoying it. Maybe it just brings back those memories of the first time I saw it, but there's this. I guess now is also a good time to mention the animal designs in this show are really great. I mean, we all know Appa, but the show does a very good job at depicting very creatively designed animals. I mean, sometimes it's a little simplistic, like you have a koi fish that's big, but then again, I kind of like the idea of a koi fish that's the size of a whale. If that were a real thing, that would be really, really cool. Or an eel that's even bigger than a whale. That's also cool. The highlight of this episode, though, for those animal designs is something called a Komodo rhino, which, as you could probably guess from the description, it kind of looks like a cross between a Komodo dragon, a rhinoceros, and a triceratops. It's kind of a mount that the Fire Nation uses sometimes in cavalry situations. Yeah, it looks really cool. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but it looks really cool. And don't have a ton. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention in the Southern Air Temple episode is that was the only episode, I believe, in the whole show that doesn't open with a title card. I mean, it shows the title, written by and so forth, but it's the only episode that doesn't have a flare to white that says book 1, chapter whatever, and then the title. It just shows the title against a rising sunset. Simple, I know, but kind of a dork about these things, and it was a very artistically pleasing way to open the episode. And that's about it. Good episode. Nothing spectacular, but good episode all the same. So with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Until next time, onwards and upwards, my friends.